I'm sorry. Oh, sorry about that. There I am. Okay.
Okay, well, welcome to the October 12th, 2021 session of TangerineSDR and Hamside Technical Session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week, I've been doing a lot of stuff around the house. We're going to have a little construction in the next couple weeks. We're building a portico in front of our house. So that's one thing. We've had car repairs and all other kinds of things going on this last week. So not a lot of radio stuff. I keep fooling with my in-shack networking system, trying to get it to the place I want it. And I'm still not there, but learning a lot about more complicated routers. So next on the list, we have Nathaniel, NW2NAF. Sorry. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thank you very much, Dave. It has been a very busy week here. All sorts of things going on. I now have, I just got from Amazon the BX500 2.5-inch solid state 2 terabyte SSD that David McGaw recommended, and an enclosure for my upgraded Grape personal space weather station. I also got the Adafruit GPS hat for that. So I'll be able to run the new image that Bill Engelke put out that can handle the full spectrum recording. And then perhaps the busiest thing this week, if I can bring it up, all day Thursday, yesterday and today, Jonathan Rizzo and I worked on installing conduit at my house to put in VLF antennas out here. So we have a 250-foot run. And today we actually did get the cable. We got 3 runs of Cat6, 3 runs of RG6 flooded direct burial, and 1 run of rotor control cable out to the site. And so we're making progress on actually installing a ground magnetometer and a VLF receive site at my house. So that is what I have been up to.
Very good.
I do see some rocks.
Yes, there were definitely rocks. The trencher was very sensitive to them. So yeah. The trencher was extremely heavy. It was extremely hard work. I'm amazed we got it done. We got the cable pulled all the way through the system as of 6 p.m., 6:30, maybe, yeah, 6:30 p.m. tonight. We got it all the way through. And there were a couple of times where it was like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this, but we did it. So now we still have to fill in the trench. I have a ground wire that 8-gauge ground wire that we're going to run through the whole thing. So we have to put that in. We've got to fill in the trench. We have to install the ground magnetometer and the antennas, put the enclosures on, do all the electronics, but we are making progress. So.
Very good.
Great.
Well, next on the list is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave. And
hello.
Nice background.
Well, stole it from a magazine, but not sure if that's one I want, but yeah, I've just been upgrading this laptop. It's taken me 2 days and counting, but at least I'm functional and trying out this green screen, and been working on some code also, especially late last week, not the last couple days, but that's about it.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, not much ham radio related going on around here. However, there was one interesting thing that just came up on a local 10-meter net about an hour ago. I learned that there was a CME event of some sort today that was expected to hit the earth. So I pulled up my Grape One record for the last day from 10 megahertz WWV, and it does look a little bit strange today. Signal level from WWV was higher than usual for much of the day, and I got some kind of weird stuff in the ionosphere. It fell and rose and fell and rose in a little bit of an unusual pattern, but I don't know what to make of that yet, and whether it was, I have not confirmed with CME that somebody mentioned on the net, so I need to do that and need to understand whether there's any relationship at all. That's about it.
Well, that sounds good. Next on the list is Bill, AB4EJ. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, thanks, Dave. Good evening to the net. Most of this week was devoted with doing some projects at my daughter's house in Orlando, but I did accomplish one thing right prior to when I left. This has to do with the new NASA project. I got TensorFlow installed on my home machine and had to manipulate a whole bunch of DLLs in such a way that I can now operate using the GPU. So I can run TensorFlow with GPU acceleration, which makes a difference of anywhere from 20x to 40x in training and et cetera. So anyway, making progress towards that. That's about all I had. Back to net.
Well, fine business. That sounds interesting. Next on the list is Dan in for XWE. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Dave, and hello, everyone. Worked a little bit with GNU radios this week for the first time in a while, and futzed around with Windows. I'm just having all sorts of Windows misery these days. So anyway, that's kind of been my week in radio. Back to you, Dave.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is David McGaw in one HAC. Go ahead, David.
Well, hello, everyone. Not a lot on the project this week, but working on our research radios and rooting for the Red Sox. Go Red Sox. That's been a full-time job practically this week. But we have an interesting anomaly here in New Hampshire. There's been a large boom was heard in much of southern New Hampshire yesterday morning. Nobody can explain what it was, earthquake or what. Now they're beginning to think it was a meteor, but I'm wondering if there might be some scatter data in radio signals that might be able to be picked up, because they're saying it was overcast. We might never know what it actually was. So let's hope our network gets up soon and we can find these things when they happen. Yes. Back to net.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is David Waugh, KE8QEP. Go ahead, David.
Hello, everyone. I don't have anything relevant to this net to contribute, so I'll just say hello, everyone, and back to Dave.
Okay. And next on the list is Gary, AF8A. Go ahead, Gary.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, one and all. Not much project-wise relate. Was happy to make about 1,200 QSOs as a mobile in the Pennsylvania QSO party this weekend. Didn't get nearly as far east, say, as Scranton. Got about as far east as Williamport and decided to head back towards Ohio. So after about 600 miles and 1,200 QSOs, we pretty much had our fill. That's it. Back to net.
Well, that would be a tiring week, but fun. So next on the list, we have James Kennedy. Go ahead, James. You're muted. It's a button near the bottom of the screen. Okay. I can't hear you. You're still muted. Nathaniel, can you unmute him?
I can't unmute him. I can ask that he unmutes, and that brings up a button or a little window.
Oh, there he goes.
Did that work?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Jim K6MIO. And I'm not on the air at the moment. We moved for a couple of years ago from Hilo, Hawaii area, where I was there for many, many years. And the challenges of making a move like that, and of course, COVID and all of that good stuff. It's just wonderful to be able to talk to people that really have radios.
Yes. Well, welcome. And if you find what we're doing interesting, please come back.
Well, I have poked my head in whenever I see the opportunity, and of course, very delighted to look at all of the day-to-day stuff that comes through. I think you're doing this group is doing a wonderful job.
Well, thank you. And yeah, definitely come back. Next on the list, let's see, James, KG4DSG. Go ahead, James.
Good evening, Dave and the group. Nothing on the project. I'm just listening as usual, but I did stumble across an interesting YouTube channel this weekend. I've seen the channel before, but they've posted 2 videos within the last week. Just tear down an analysis of the Apollo Space Program Unified S-band system. They actually have actual hardware that they're disassembling and explaining it as they go. I thought it was very interesting. I'll post it in the chat if anybody's interested. The channel is actually the same people who actually rebuilt one of the guidance computers. They got their hands on one of the original guidance computers. So it's the same people. With that, back to Matt.
Very good. Next on the list, let's see. It looks like it's Joe, W7LUX. Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, Dave, and everyone on the video here. I'm looking at my grape result from the last 24 hours, basically, and I see a lot of up and down overnight. But Jim, are you still on here? Where did you see some disturbance? What time?
Let's see. Let me pull it back up here.
I don't have it on this computer. I can't show it right now. But anyway, seems as though there's one emergency after another here. Everything from trying to get a Linux Mint computer to talk to a scanner, to having to help out with a Boy Scout event this coming weekend, because the person who was going to have was going to help did not survive a heart attack.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, sorry.
But okay. Anyway, that's really all I've got from here.
I pulled up the plot again, and the most notable thing seemed to occur between about midnight and 1300 hours UTC.
Okay, I'm seeing quite a bit of fluctuations between midnight and about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 0600. Okay, thanks, Jim.
okay. Next on the list is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I had quite a busy week. I was working more on my audio injector isolated sound card for my Raspberry Pi for the VLF SDR. I was able to solve the power issue that I had. I was getting under voltage errors, so all I had to do was monitor the 5-volt pin on the Raspberry Pi and just tweak the pot on the DC to DC converter just to get enough voltage while the Pi was under heavy load. The reason why that it was under heavy load was because with the new sound card sampling at 192 kilohertz, the timing application, which adjusts the timestamps to UT time, it also resamples. So it's resampling. It's doing a lot of data. So there's quite a bit of CPU power. It used between 40 to 60% of one of the 4 cores, which is pretty high. Normally with the older sound card, it samples at 96K, it's about 15%. So it's quite a bit. Also, I haven't been able to get the timing system to work reliably. I have to, it misses pulses now, but this sound card, this is really good. It'll, even passes DC. So it's a really good sound card. What I'm going to try is I'm going to try a new timing method, because the timing program has some limitations with how it actually finds the pulse in the audio feed. I'm going to try out a new method, order some parts, and see how well that goes. Also, as Nathaniel said, and he showed you in the pictures, we were able to get quite a bit of work done on our conduit project. We trenched out 250 feet, laid out 250 feet of conduit, plus more. We trenched out the area by his shack, and we were able to get 7 cables total, 3 RG6, 3 Cat6, and an order control cable. And it was
Keith sent me notes to Steve to catch a story out of California. And I had seen it, but thanks, Keith. Newsom signs law to eventually ban gas-powered alarms.
And it was a fairly laborious process. It was a lot of hard work. We were sweating, sore, sunburned, dirty, muddy, but pulling that cable through 250 feet of conduit, that was quite a workout too. So, but we got everything done, and we got the cable pulled. There's still some more work to do, but we're overall pretty satisfied with the progress. That's all I have. Back to the net.
Well, fine business. And let's see. Next on the list is Jules, K2KGJ. Go ahead, Jules.
Okay, well, congratulations, first of all, to Nathaniel and to Jonathan for that amazing amount of work at Nathaniel's QTH. I was in communication with them earlier in the week, and then the moment of truth came on Thursday. So, and good work. Excellent job, guys. The rest of the week was spent in updating an antenna, a mobile antenna for 10 meters for my vehicle, for some testing with the Amateur Radio Emergency Services group that would belong to on Saturday, which was part of this year's SET, and was a mapping of simplex 10-meter mobile coverage over the county. So it took me a couple of days to make up the new antenna, which is was not a full-length whip. I can't can't use a 102-inch whip on my vehicle with a lip mount. So I basically made a continuously loaded antenna from a fiberglass fishing pole that's just about 72 inches, which worked pretty well. Anyway, that's about it here, except this morning ran into a problem when I did the mobile run on Saturday. I apparently picked up a nail near the sidewall of my left front tire, which fortunately it's only got about 5,000 to 7,000 miles left on it. So the rest of the day was spent looking for the best buy on 4 tires for 205 R17, 60 R17s. I just finished that before I called into the net here. So, oh well. I was hoping to put that off until next spring after the winter tires come off. But anyway, that's done and a little more money out of the pocket. Back to net.
Okay. And next on the list is Scotty, WA2 DFI. Go ahead, Scotty. Muted.
How about that?
There you go.
I just changed my background here. We had a swap meet this weekend, and of all the goodies that you get at the swap meet, this is the prize belt buckle.
Oh, CB Convoy.
Breaker CB Convoy belt buckle.
I think those are
that's
actually
dated.
Yeah, I think those are actually lead and plated. They're fairly heavy, right?
It's pretty. It feels like it's brass though.
Oh, it could be. I've got about 3 or 4 of those, and mine are all lead.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't bend. So,
okay.
Should I be able to bend it if it was lead?
Not necessarily.
Well, okay.
If you scratch it on the back, you could see it. If it's brass, you've got a nice one.
I hope it's brass because I really don't want to wear a lead belt buckle. Trying to get the lead out, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I did complete the testing on the Magneto-Pi boards, on the programming of them. I have a question I need to get with Dave W on. The software that I ran to test the RevD boards doesn't seem to run, and I don't know why. It's some stupid thing that I'm doing, I'm sure, because I put the old boards back on and they don't work either. So it's some dumb thing that I'm doing. It's just a stupid mistake. So I'm going to get that fixed up. And I had a question for Nathaniel and Jonathan: is what diameter is that cable, that conduit that you ran 250 feet that you got all those cables through? And
2 inch.
It's 2 inch.
Mm-hmm.
And you pull them through one at a time with a pull tape, or?
We made a bundle of all 7 cables, and we taped them together about every 5 to 10 feet with electrical tape, Super 33 plus, and then we pulled it all through all at once.
Okay, because that's what I was thinking you'd have to do to get that many cables through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was not easy.
Yeah. Anyway, so I also exchanged an email, or got an email from Tom on the adapter board. And so I'm going to make some changes on that to make it a little bit easier to comprehend and get that rolling. We should start layout this week on that board. So back to you, Dave.
Well, fine business. So next on the list, we have Tom in 5EG. Tom, is it good news or bad news this week?
It's down again this week. Last Tuesday morning, I finally got the project to come up and run under the new tool set. It was a major chore to get it there. And I would describe it as there's a scurry of squirrels in there. And my job has been that of rodentologist. So there are a lot of interesting things to be found in there. One of them was that the on-chip RAM has to be initialized, and there was a file to initialize it. The path to that file was /home/some long ago user at Altera, and an absolute path. So obviously it couldn't find that file. And I found another file similar. It was a hex file, and I figured out what was in it. for a different project, figuring it might work the same way, but it was a different project. And turned out to be easiest just to change a setting in the RAM and initialize the on-chip RAM to all zeros. Son of a gun, it came up and ran. So I copied it. I instantly saved that thing to the server and a couple of archive places, 3 or more secret hidey holes, wherever else you can stuff software that's actually working. And I made a copy of it, identical copy. The only thing different was it was in a different folder location. It doesn't run.
Oh.
And looking through there, there's a lot of absolute file paths in the copy that are now wrong. And I ended up having to totally rebuild it. And then it builds with the wrong device drivers again, like the first one was doing. But I had saved copies of the device drivers from the good build, replaced them all, and it came up and I got it working again in the new directory after rebuilding everything. And then I started making changes for UDP packets. And so I changed a bunch of files and tried it out. It got it to clean compile and it blew up. Well, you know, it's what you expect when you start with new code. And then I closed it down and went for a walk, came back, started it up. Nothing would compile. And it turns out that the files are now pointing to stuff that's in the trash can rather than files that are in the directory. How in the world that happened, I have no idea. And so apparently one cannot just go into the directory and copy files and delete them and change them and rename them. That doesn't work. It keeps cached versions of the files around that are hidden. And so you have to go in and use their tools to delete and rename, add new, and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
it keeps copies of the files in the QSF file. So you have to use the tool to change the names and add and subtract files.
Exactly. It's doing all kinds of stuff. I've only found about 4 or 5 of the absolute path names. I did find a really cool path name. It labels the path to every file as something that goes back to the root to the Intel install directory for all the software // // // / // / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / / then once it gets to the root, then it works its way back down to where the project is. So there's 21 to 25 different directories in that name, most of which are tracing up and tracing back down. So when I say there's a scurry of squirrels in there, I really mean it. So anyway, so the good news is we got it working under all the new tools. And the bad news is I'm going to have to go back and rebuild it for about the 5,000th time, and then try to figure out how to replay. I made all of my changes in separate files, and so I can replay all my changes. I've tried to take notes and build files to where I can do file replays to fix things. This will be interesting if someone else takes this on for maintenance. So, anyway, back to the group.
Well, I think that's everybody on the list. Did I miss anybody? Huh? Oh, Michael. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Can I do a screen share, Dave, please?
Sure. I think you can do it yourself, Kent.
Oh, see if I'm capable. I just want to say congratulations to Jonathan and Nathaniel. And the trencher is a bit of a challenge, but it's all in a matter of style.
I can tell you that is not the type of trencher that we rented.
That looks
I
like a
have to
commuter.
make sure I rent a different that kind of trencher the next time.
Hey, you could commute to work on that, Nathaniel.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
It would take a while.
I like it.
There's a lot of vibration. You couldn't fall asleep on it.
Hey, anything with a tread on it's got to be good.
Is that you?
Yeah, 1974. That's a
Yeah, that is style.
Aren't you going across a road there?
Well, that's in North Carolina, and I called it a road, but they say it was constructed with rejected arrowheads. Never had so many flat tires in my life.
Wow.
The cable there is a 25 pair telephone cable we're burying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, very good.
All right.
Okay, well, I think we're open for general discussion.
So Tom, maybe you're it should be called an intrusion of cockroaches since they're bugs, right?
Yeah, no, they're bigger than bugs.
Oh, okay.
And squirrelier.
They're squirrely. They're various kinds of rodentia. So,
and they said that and what did you say? It's those squirrels. It's a
scurry of squirrels.
Scurry, and they said the squirrels are territorial and will fight to the death to preserve their territory.
Well, these are certainly qualify there.
Yeah. So it fits, I guess, maybe better than an intrusion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good that we got to make with the tool set, and 2% of the time it generates the correct drivers. 98% of the time it doesn't, but we snapshotted a copy. So, that overall, that's good news.
By the way, Tom, since you seem to be quite underwater with this project, maybe there are a number of beavers in there.
Yeah, I don't know what a collection of beavers is called. I would hate to even know the answer.
I don't know the collection, but they do like to build dams and attack people who get in their way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tools
it's called a colony.
A colony
of beavers.
Okay. At any rate, it took 7 weeks from start to finish to get the first successful build with a tool set. So I have a feeling there's some defaults in there related to old tools that are messing things up. And they never put out a new version of the build packages.
If it was easy, anyone could do it.
Yeah. Had they merely updated the design example to the current tool set, we could have shaved about 7 weeks off the project.
Yeah.
I think you need both the technical prowess and the gumption to stick with it.
Yeah. And nerves of steel.
I had this list of the next 23 things to try.
Only 23. That's
at any one time. I'd
kind of a short
7 or 8. Go back to the next set. There. Yeah. Anyway, I coded up UDP sockets, and I'm going to have to go back and replay those changes into the file, see if I can get it going. I did get a clean compile out of that, so hopefully I'll have some good news next week on that.
Very good.
So Tom, I was talking to my business partner about the names on the adapter board.
Yeah.
And he suggested that what we do, and we probably should have done this in the first place, is name all of the signals on the outboard side of the adapter the exact same names as that are on the RF board.
Okay.
And then name the signals on the inboard side the exact same names that are on the adapter on the off-the-shelf development kit.
Okay.
And then put next to them the pin number and the function that they're supposed to do in text. So they're that becomes a comment then on the schematic.
Yeah, I had a hard time following it when DN0 meant SPI clock and things like that. That was tough to follow.
I know, because we took some of the pins of the second data group and we used them for SPI ports. So since we only had one input path, since it's interleaved, so we didn't need 2 input paths. So we had some extra pins, and the thing is, on the FPGA, they're all programmable. So what do you name them? I mean, you name them something generic, and then they get assigned to something when you plug a specific board in, which is kind of impossible to document. So,
yeah. Well, I think clearing up the nomenclature will help folks like me figure out, what pin on the radio goes to what pin on the DevKit.
Yeah.
Because we're going to, when we add the I2C and the bidirectional SPI interfaces, I'm going to need to know what pins they are to do pin assignments, things like that.
Well, the comment that I put in is the actual FPGA pin that signal goes to.
Okay.
So that should revert back to your FPGA code into the pin planner that says, oh, that's pin, because it's going to be different for the development kit than for the data engine because we use a different size part, so it has different pins.
You're right. I understand that the adapter, of course, if it can provide clues there, we know the adapter only plays with the development kit.
Yeah, yeah. And then if we have another board that comes in later that can use the development kit use the adapter as an intermediate board, well, then we'll figure that out when we get to it, but rather than confuse the issue right today.
Yeah.
So speaking of confused, Dave, I have a question on the software.
Yes.
I'm running, of course, the machine that I'm using is in the other room, so this is going to be done by memory for me. But I run the code and it comes up and it says device version mismatch.
Yeah.
So what am I doing wrong that I'm getting that? I never used to get that before.
Well, I assume you're using a command line with the.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which I can't. I've been sitting here trying to remember what it might be, but usually, well, for what version of the code are you using?
0.9. Which is very old because it was one of the first ones that you came out with, because this was done back, in what, April or something.
Well, you could pull something newer down off of GitHub, pull the latest one.
Okay, I was just trying to do something quick and dirty to prove that I could talk to the board.
Right. It's the parameter for the bus. Probably you're not talking. That error means that you're not talking to the magnetometer. For whatever reason. But usually what that means is you're on the wrong bus, which on the Raspberry Pi is bus 1, which is
and I'm on the Odroid, and I believe it's bus 3 because bus 2 is the ID ROM.
Okay, yeah, that's different. Then you need a different parameter. And
but I can specify that on the command line, right?
Yes. And and I'm not on the machine that has any built version of that code, but it's it's dash R or dash D capital. It's a dash B, I think.
Dash B.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the number.
I think, and you know what? I think I'm using it. I'm putting a 2 in there, and that's wrong.
Yeah, probably not 2. It's it could be, but I don't remember what the default bus is.
But you don't. It's not something you actually go in and read the ROM and compare it or anything. This is actually having to just to access the right I2C bus.
Yeah, you need the right I2C bus, and you need the
because I know I got to put the address in.
Yeah, the addresses, and
have you tried I2C detect?
Yeah, you could use I2C detect.
Yeah, and I think that's where I get buses 2 and 3, which I think I'm using the wrong bus because I use bus 2 to program the ROM.
Okay, well, typically on my Pi, it's I2C detect dash Y and then a 1.
Okay.
So I'm using bus 1.
Yeah, because I'm using an Odroid, so
okay,
it's different.
Scotty, I can get that I can figure that out for you. I just don't. In fact, it's in the older versions of the code. There's even a list of what buses. There's some.
Yeah, and so what I did is I did, the command with like a -H, and I got all the list of all the options.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's obviously one of those that I've got wrong. Otherwise, it's not going to talk.
Yeah. Well, virtually any version will do what you need to do. you know, what you want to do, at least any version from 9 on, probably, but
well, this is the one I used to test the RevD board. So I thought, well, all I want to do is show, hey, look, the parts are there. And then from then on, I want to get them out to you guys to do all the mechanical stuff.
We'll use I2C detect -Y -R3 or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And you'll see the devices that are addressable out there. You'll see things you'll probably see, say, if the magnetometer is at the default 20 hex, you'll see a 20, you know, and if the MCP9808s are at 19 or something else. Anyway, you'll see where they are. Leave me alone, Cat. I'm being attacked.
Because I did, what did I do? I did like a I2C dump, and it showed me the buses that were there, and there's 2 of them.
Yeah, but use I2C detect.
Right, but on the specific bus.
On the specific bus that you're suspecting is the right one. And that should
only 2, so I can try the other one if that one doesn't work.
Yeah. Have you, this is the same Odroid that you've used in the past?
Yeah. In fact, I got to the point where I could just power it up and I could use the up arrow to go back to the same commands that I used in March, you know, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's why I was thinking this would be really trivially easy. All I need to do is verify that it can see them, and then that's good enough for now to say that they're good.
Yep. Okay. So the flash is visible. That bus is visible by default.
Yep. And I programmed the parts. And what I did is I erased the flash. I read it back to show that it's zeros. I program it. Then I read it back to show that I got in there what I wanted to put in there on all 10 boards. And that worked.
Okay. On the Pis, it's not available by default. I think you should be able to make it available, but there's also some stuff in those instructions about it being available only at boot time and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Because I did the same kind of thing that I did with the RevD boards, and you helped me with that back in March, and so it was just basically doing the same thing again to program the ROMs.
Yeah.
And that worked. So.
Okay. Well, please. Ping me to any way you want, or I have an Odroid sitting around here that I could set up, but
okay,
I'm kind of
like I said, it worked before, so I'm going like, this is some operator error thing that I'm doing wrong. I'm putting the wrong parameter in or something.
Yeah. It's, well, that's absolutely the error you will always get when you're not talking to the.
Okay, because it says it got 0 and expected hex 22.
Right. It's saying it got nothing, and it was looking for version of the magnetometer board of hex 22, which is the default, which is what all these little modules we've gotten.
So that's hard. That's one of the registers in the magnetometer chip.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not getting to the chip. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not getting to the chip. And it's always the first error you'll get when, you know, anything's not right.
All right.
And if
actually I have a log file from the last one that worked, and I can go back there and look to see what actually I put in for the bus numbers. So that would, because I think it saves all of the parameters that the program uses in that log file before it starts giving you your data.
Yeah. You can, I didn't know you were going to go ahead and try to test them, or I would have sent you something specific built for that, but by now, but you know, at any point you can send them to me and I'll test them, or because I'll have all my thoughts together in one place for a few minutes at least.
Well, like I said, I'm not going to do a real thorough test, but I thought if I could just read the remote and read the local guys, that should be sufficient. And
there are some other commands in the I2C detect, you know, in the I2C suite, the little set of tools that you use, that I2C detect is part of, and ITC dump is part of, that
Yeah,
will
there's get, and
yeah,
and does it get and put or whatever. I use those actually to test the interrupts on those first Rev D boards.
yeah,
To actually go in and set the magnetometer up to interrupt me when it was done, and then go and look at the interrupt to see if it was there. And because obviously I couldn't take a real interrupt on the Raspberry Pi, but I could go see that the interrupt pin was asserted. And then I put a scope on there and looked to see that the interrupt pin was asserted. But on this Rev E board, we don't do interrupts. So
yeah,
all that went away. So
yeah. Yeah, and if you don't know whether you're talking to the registers, you can't look at the D-Ready register.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So okay, well.
Okay, thanks.
But let me know if you have trouble.
Okay, will do.
I'll be on it.
So, Jules, do you want to talk any at all about how we're going to build the in-ground kit? Or Dave, maybe if you have any ideas.
I don't know.
Hang on a second. I'm here. I was off for a moment. How we're going to build the in-ground kit?
Yeah, because my thought is that we could provide some of the small parts, but obviously I don't want to have to cut 3-foot pieces of pipe and ship them to people. So we're thinking more in terms of giving a list of suppliers to say, here's the part number, here's where you order it, go here and order the parts. And for things like the bulkhead connector and the even the PVC and the T's and the elbows and caps and things like that, you can get all that at Home Depot for pennies.
Right.
So it seems silly to ship that because you're going to have to get the pipe anyway. And if you're going to get the pipe, you're going to be able to get the fittings.
Correct.
So maybe we want to include things like the level and the through hole. Yeah. And what's that, Dave?
I made this PVC washer, and it takes the waterproof Cat 6 connector, and it fits on the inside of one of the joints.
Yeah, you were telling me, right?
But you can't. I made it myself, and I don't know. I've looked, and I can't find PVC, but I can find washers this size. But they pretty much have to be.
Your construction method was a little bit different than Jules, I think, was.
Yes.
Right. Although I did some lathe work too to make up some special surfaces that would mount that connector easily.
So if we're going to do that, then we have to supply that part. But if we could say go to Home Depot and buy 311, 223, 494, it's in aisle 3, then they can just buy it.
Yeah, well, they don't have that part, and I did.
Oh, sorry. I talked to Bruce Raymond and John Ackerman, and they suggested that we just order a few hundred of these. And
I thought you said you made that.
I made it, but you can buy a plastic washer of that size with that dimension custom made for a few cents a piece.
Is the plastic compatible with the cements that we use for the PVC?
That's the question, is what plastic to use or to use silicon?
A lot of them might not be. I did look into buying PVC rod that was about that diameter, and it's not prohibitive.
Then you can slice it.
I could put it on a lathe and run a drill down the center of it, remount the hole, and then slice it into things. That would be one strategy.
Yeah, that's a lot of work though, Dave.
Do you want to do that for a couple hundred of those?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to very bad, but I'm not sure I know of a better thing. And I don't know where you'd get these things for pennies.
Let me suggest something else. You can use, if you go to from 1.5, if you go to 2-inch conduit, the T-fittings and the plugs that you can use to get into that will fit the T-fittings just require some hand filing to flatten out. And then you can
Oh.
use common step drills
Yes.
to make the hole to the right size. And in fact, actually, if you make the hole just slightly large, just the diameter across the flats of the connector, and use a rat tail file to round out a little bit, it takes about 5 minutes to do that, to make it into a locking hole so that when you put it in, it doesn't rotate.
Like a flat, a D flat.
Yeah, exactly. D flat, right. Except think of 2 D flats.
Yeah.
Think of, right. Okay. If you do that, it's very simple. The nut then screws on from the back. You can put RTV on to seal in place. It takes a little bit of handwork, but if you're going to be handy enough to putting the whole thing together anyway, you're certainly going to be handy enough to do that.
So one question: if you could theoretically just make a hole that's big enough and tighten it down tight enough so it doesn't rotate, is that possible, or is that not? Will that not work?
You need the nut behind it.
Need the nut, but you don't need the D flat necessarily if it's
Oh,
tight
no.
enough.
Okay, that right. In fact, if you just do a hole, if you use a step drill, it's a standard size. Just use one of the step drills. And if you tighten it down, actually 2 things, tighten it down and put RTV on it, it won't rotate after that.
I'm just thinking of trying to make the design as simple as possible to use standard parts, no lathes, no band saws, no fancy stuff that we like to play with, but most of the average hand doesn't have.
But again, all you need are step drills and a hand drill and a rat tail file. And
how big is the hole? What is that?
I have to look at my drilling. It's 3/4 approximately.
So that's why you need a step drill, because
exactly right.
Okay.
But it's a standard step drill, for cutting holes in sheet metal and so on and so forth. It works perfectly.
After I moved my magnetometer, I had originally used Joule's design almost exactly, but then I found a gland waterproof wire connector that had a NTP pipe thread, and I guess it was Menards, I found an adapter that allowed that to screw directly into something that could go into the PVC pipe.
Well, that's handy.
I don't feel like there was quite enough reach in the threads, and so I used some, Teflon tape and a wish and a prayer and some silicone. But I'm sure there could be some other connectors that would use that pipe thread that would just thread right in.
Which means you need no drill, right?
What's that?
Which means you would need no drill.
Yeah. Now I haven't found the parts, but I just sort of graze various stores looking for things to use and off-shelf possibilities.
Yeah, you're right, Dave, because typically you can get either slip fittings or threaded fittings with a PVC, and those threads are compatible with a lot of other standard threads for plumbing. Yeah.
And I think you can even get reducers to go from 1.5 to half or whatever.
The only thing that worries me about all that is that in this town, we have Menards, we have Home Depot, we have Lowe's, and we have Ace hardware stores that are quite a few of them. And I never find exactly the same stuff. Any of the times I go, and there's a lot of slight variations.
But what we would do in the case of those small parts is Tapper would just buy 100 of them and build a kit. And then you would have a bag of parts and you wouldn't have to buy anything more. But a pipe this long, I don't want to deal with that as far as shipping. So,
and they will cut the pipe for you. If you have to buy an 8-foot piece and cut off 3 feet, they have 2-foot pieces pre-cut, I think.
Right, they do. Yes, that's right, Dave.
But Scotty, what you guys could do is find the weird obscure part that Menards only has on special order,
and buy 100
standing on your left leg, and supply those.
And the other thing that we can do is, I don't know what you think about this. We could buy 3 1-foot pieces and 2 couplers and make a 3-foot piece out of it just to save the mailing cost. That adds more labor, but it makes the box only that big instead of, huge. Although The problem that we still have is we have to have a volunteer who's willing to go buy 10-foot pieces and cut them up into 1-foot pieces. And, you know, where the volunteers are in short supply around here. So,
Scotty, depending on what you're paying, I'll cut up PVC pipe all day.
Do you live in Georgia?
It
The
feels
problem
that
is
way
once you start
sometimes,
doing this, you
but-
start getting in terms of, okay, now Dave goes down to the hardware store, he buys the pieces, he cuts them up, he ships them to so-and-so, they put them together, and then he ships them to so pretty soon you've got all the shipping costs, and it's like.
And realistically, I mean, anyone can find that pipe at the store.
I mean,
it's you know, there's some weird connectors that you can find
Right.
sometimes at Lowe's, Home Depot.
So like what Dave was saying is maybe you can't find the connector, so that's what we supply, but the pipe everybody can get. So we don't supply that. We tell you where to go to get it.
It's extremely standard pipe that
Yeah.
you would not have functioning plumbing in a city if you did not have it
Right.
at every hardware store.
And some of the fittings I've been able to buy online. If they were out of stock at either Home Depot or Lowe's, I'd buy them online.
Yep.
Yeah, and Jules, how far is your nearest Home Depot? It's in Albany?
But about 10 miles.
So even in rural areas, it's not far from
Right.
the nearest one.
Well,
I don't know about overseas, whether they have that kind of stuff available easily or.
Well, unfortunately, all this, we might do a metric specification too, because in Europe, all this stuff is sold in metric sizes sensibly, like people.
And they don't use NPT threads there, right?
No, they have a slightly different, I think there's a different metric because NPT is a tapered thread and National Pipe thread, and it's tapered, and but there's an equivalent.
And of course, the current design doesn't use tapered threads. I mean, Jules' design
really
works perfectly. You know, didn't use tapered thread.
It's all just glued, right? It's slip joints and glued with
Yes.
RTP.
Yeah. The only right. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I used the tapered thread in my second or when I moved it, and you know, it wasn't a perfect implementation, but if we could find some connectors with longer threads, that would certainly alleviate drilling.
If we know
which isn't that hard, but
right. If we know how to deal with water pressure with regard to good thread to thread seal, then we have a lot of flexibility in terms of making stuff fit.
Yeah.
So is are the instructions for yours, Jules, are they up on on our working document somewhere or?
Actually, I believe Hammond has a full set of those. It's up on. He's got a
on the
site
Ham
with
page?
yeah. He's got it right exactly.
Yeah.
It should be there.
Okay.
Guys, I need to go, but I want to remind everybody, if you're a Tapper member, the vote, and we have several officers here and two of the candidates.
Vote for me.
Scotty's running, Dan is running. Anybody else here that's running?
I should be running from office, not for office.
So please vote if you can.
when is this election?
This is
happening right
the,
now.
if you're a Tapper member,
Well, I am a Tapper member.
then you should have gotten an email.
Okay.
If you did not get an email to vote, then let us know as ASAP because we need to make sure everybody, I mean, he may have, maybe Stan has an old email for you or something, so you didn't get it.
I did get it.
I got mine.
I got mine today, so.
Yeah, same here.
I probably got one. I just, you know, didn't.
Okay. Anyway, like I said, if you don't get one, tell us because we want to make sure you get on the list. You should be on the list already.
The voting is on a third-party site that it's a vendor we use.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. It was Election Buddy is what it's called.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to cut out too, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have to leave here too. So
yes.
Okay, so I'll get with you, Dave, if I have any more trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I check my email many times a day. So
Okay.
except tomorrow I'm gonna Well, I'll be here. I'll get it, but I'm gonna sneak out of the house if I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll get that worked.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. 7-3.
7-3, everybody.
Wow.
I think I'm gonna say 7-3 also. Cut out the recording.